Aloha, welcome to Connect the Dots with Jenny. Today's episode will be addressing Moana Lutey, who is currently a county clerk on Maui. Yesterday, the minutes for the March 19th Police Commission meeting to decide if John Pelletier was going to be placed on administrative leave was finally released. I have been reading and dissecting, and today I would like to address Moana Lutey's testimony. She starts out by addressing that she is there on her personal capacity, thank God, because they're not supposed to, as a county worker. So that's good that she identified that. She also identifies that she's a county clerk and that she was a corp counsel under Mayor Victorino, and she served for 20 years in litigation, and that she has served under 4 chiefs of police, and that she has represented them through civil lawsuits. So she makes this claim. Here it is, the minutes. She makes this claim that through her 20 years career of serving under these chiefs of police, she has seen countless amounts of civil lawsuits brought against them that she couldn't even count. She couldn't even remember. Okay, so what she's essentially saying is that it's not uncommon for chiefs of police to receive a civil lawsuit, which is true. It is correct. She says that why is this uncommon is because civil complaints require very little. There's no investigating typically done or anything like that. They're just allegations and really not much more. So as an example of how little was done in this particular litigation, take a look at the photo that's allegedly Chief Pelletier standing behind P. Diddy at the Super Bowl. My 9-year-old nephew saw it and was like, that's not the chief. Of course not. But that just tells you if they can't even get that right, what else is wrong with this complaint? So let me try and show you this picture that is in the complaint, because I also have the Ashley Parham Diddy Lawsuit citing John Pelletier. And I agree with you. I agree. I do not believe that this photo is Pelletier in the background. This guy. That being said, that was a picture simply to identify. It was not a part of their case. Now, I could see how she wants to use that and chip away at the credibility of the rest of it, because she's saying if you can't even get this picture right, then everything else is wrong. That's dismissive and still irresponsible. You're a little bit early to be talking about that. Okay, so let's go back to what you said. Oh, she wrote, what else is wrong with this complaint? You should take a very dangerous position you would take a dangerous position by placing this man on leave when you can see how poorly written this complaint is, and also the fact that it's nothing more than a civil allegation that is now 7 years old. Okay, so she says that is now 7 years old. 7 years old, well, let's talk about statute of limitations. In this lawsuit, it cites RICO. With RICO, there's 4 years from the date of discovery. So the 7 years doesn't matter. With the sexual assault that's in there, depends on different states, but this is filed in a federal court of law, and so there's at least 10 plus years. So her citing 7 years does not diminish the credibility of this lawsuit. Yes, so she's claiming that it's just a civil lawsuit. It's nothing. There's been a ton of civil lawsuits. There's no big deal. But here's the thing, it is a big deal because this particular lawsuit is tied to Diddy. And if you haven't been following up, which I'm assuming you haven't because you said the things you said in here, if you've been following up, it's a very serious federal case that they're charging him for RICO, sex trafficking. The charges that's listed and the evidence mounted against him is widely publicized. The judge has denied him bail 3 times. He has remained in federal custody since September 2024. So the validity of this particular lawsuit is something that needs to be taken into account. Okay, then she also cites that because she was asked, well, is it uncommon for the police commission to have to be inquired about in regards to what's going on with Chief Pelletier? And she says in her whole time, she's never seen it. Chief Pelletier is the only one, almost as if he's just being targeted, possibly because he's not local. I have not, prior to Chief Pelletier, ever seen the commission handle this type of request. And there's a reason for that. You guys are a completely separate entity that oversees the chief, and then there's this legal process that's separate. The chiefs were always indemnified when they were named in those lawsuits, and the indemnification is done by the county council. Moana, you should already know. The reason why the civil lawsuit is different is because it was filed in the U.S. Northern District of California, a federal court of law. It did not happen on Maui. This is why it went to the police commission. This is not something that happened on Maui, and some pro se is just making these wild accusations. The thing that is very disappointing about reading your lawsuit is that you are an attorney by trade. You say that in your minutes. You are an attorney by trade. So you know these rules. And what you've done is you've done to selectively, contextually use only certain evidence or testimony to back up. However, as an attorney, you should also know that all the things you're saying can be disputed, as I am right now. I'm not even an attorney. Let's continue. She was asked questions by Commissioner Richardson, Commissioner DiRego, and Commissioner DiRego actually goes to cite the 13-101-18 charges against the Chief of Police and the rules of commission, cites something within the rules of serving on the police of the commission. And it has here as one of the punishments after charges were made, suspension. So he's getting clarity, right? And so she responds to his question as to whether or not it's going to be a punishment. And in her personal opinion, she says, yes, it would be considered. Yes, I would consider that a punishment based on what you have before you. Right before that, though, she says, look at how much publicity has been generated against the chief of police. I mean, honestly, to me, this appears to be slander and not much more. And it's a lot of it is just based. I have never seen a complaint so poorly written. It looked like a pro se complaint to me, 87 pages of nonsense in my opinion. So if you placed him on leave, yeah, I would consider that a punishment based on what you have before you. So let's break this statement down. Okay. Pro se. What's pro se? Pro se means anyone can just go ahead and file a civil lawsuit. I can walk over there and file one today. That's what she's saying. She's saying they did not go and hire an attorney. They did not verify, validate, investigate. It's just some baseless lawsuit. All right. Well, let's go ahead and take a look right here. You see this right here? Law Office of Ariel Mitchell, Law Office of Sean Perez. Here's their contact info, and she wrote Pro Hac Vice. I'm sure you know what that means, right, Moana? It means that because she's based out in Florida, she had to secure a license to be able to practice in California. So it's not pro se. She has a legal team that is representing her. It's not pro se. Let's proceed. 87 pages. She says it looks like a pro se complaint to me. You should know what a pro se complaint looks like. I've read it. I'm not an attorney, and it does not look like a pro se complaint to me. It's not sloppy. Like Leo likes to say, it's not poorly written. It's very detailed. It accounts very clearly, and it just really makes me question if you actually read the lawsuit. The thing that I wonder, because what it sounds like to me with the wording that you've used is that you claim it's baseless and poorly written. And I wonder if, since you said, that picture wasn't him, if you just stopped there. And if you didn't just stop there, if you just already made your judgment based off of that, so that your legal lens of reading all 87 pages, which they're not baseless, because the end of the lawsuit lists 19 causes of actions, which if it was in a criminal investigation or criminal court of law, that's 19 charges that they're bringing about him. So the way that you dismiss Ashley Parham's lawsuit is very irresponsible of you, Moana Lutey. Let's continue. 87 pages of nonsense, in my opinion. Okay, well, let's go ahead and let's read a little bit of Ashley Parham's. Let's read a little bit of Ashley Parham's poorly worded lawsuit. Defendant Diddy, upset by this, took the syringe from defendant KK and tried inserting it into plaintiff's vagina instead. We're on page 15. Okay, we're at number 64. I'm now reading number 65. Defendant KK and Diddy began to argue as defendant KK continued to advise defendant Diddy that since the IUD had been prematurely released from its packaging, it was in no way they could insert it into plaintiff's vagina effectively. After some time, defendant Diddy heeded the advice of defendant KK and removed the syringe from plaintiff's vagina and handed it to defendant KK. 66. Defendants KK and defendant Brandy then exited defendant Shane's residence, leaving the plaintiff alone with defendants Diddy, Shane, and John Doe's, so multiple men, who have been named herein. 67. Defendant Diddy then picked up a television remote that was near plaintiff and violently inserted it into plaintiff's vagina. Remember, plaintiff is Ashley Parham. 68. Defendant Diddy, while violently raping plaintiff with a television remote, told plaintiff that her life was in his hands and that if he wanted, he could take her and she would never be seen again. 69. Plaintiff began hysterically crying from the threats by defendant Diddy, along with the pain of being violently vaginally raped by defendant Diddy with the television remote, as well as a lingering pain from the ordeal with the IUD syringe insertion. So we're going to stop there because that's pretty brutal. That's not poorly written. That is an extremely violent, brutal, traumatic experience that Moana Lutey is completely dismissing, whitewashing, downplaying, a complete failure and irresponsible on your part, Moana Lutey, to actually use these words. It's quite offensive. Let's continue. Let's see. Something she does say is that essentially what she says is that because she's counting the validity of this lawsuit to be nil, none, because there's no investigation that was done. And to that, I would say it took me not very long to sign up for Pacers, which is the official website that is used by federal courts to display public records, court records, right? Let me pull that up. So, excuse me. Yeah. It didn't take me very long to go onto there and to pull up the docket. And within the docket, it laid out every single motion that was filed with the court of law. So that right there attests to the validity. And it started all the way from October 14, 24, 15, 2024. October 15, 2024 is when it officially started. It's really disappointing to me to hear that I am not an attorney. And it doesn't take me long to go and find this docket and to see the validity of this. Not only that, is there's 19 causes of actions, which includes RICO. These are all federal. RICO, sexual assault, essays, and if you actually read the lawsuit, you'd see that Ashley Parham went to these specific law enforcement agencies to report this crime. Luckily, she got a rape kit, but she went and she reported these crimes, and no investigation was ever opened. She even went in to Walnut Creek, I believe, and she gave them her clothes, including her underwear. They gave her her clothes back, kept her underwear. When her attorney went to attain the police report and attain her underwear, the police law enforcement would not give it to the attorney and told her she needed a subpoena to come and get this. So as far as the validity of this civil lawsuit, there's a lot of validity to it. It's extremely disheartening to see that the people who came to speak up for John Pelletier was very, they didn't do really their research. And then once again, it falls back onto the Maui Police Commission. It's apparent to me that they didn't read. As it reads, I'm not done reading the minutes from that meeting because there's like 138 pages of it, but I will get there. It appears to me that the Maui Police Commission didn't even do their own due diligence into researching the lawsuit themselves. I am not an attorney. I am not on the Maui Police Commission, and yet it didn't take me that long to go ahead and do all this research and to find out this information. So it's very disheartening to know that the people who are holding authority within our community, our Maui community, isn't doing their due diligence. It's a moral failure that those who are within leadership and authority aren't acting ethically. That's an issue that affects us, people who live in Maui County, because this is our community. And to know that people who have authority is betraying us because we're entrusting you with the authority to protect us, but you continue to fail to protect the public, but instead you are protecting the people in power instead of seeking truth and justice. And that's really disappointing. That's the end of this episode. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you guys next time. Aloha.